Number one, what is the nature of the Act? Now, please, you've got to have this word nature in your notebook. No other word. What is the nature of the Act? Because this word appears in the examination guidelines. Now, when they ask you what is the nature, it simply means why.
And what I tell my...
Sorry, it shouldn't be not why, it should be what.
Okay, what I tell my children that whenever we do an essay, your nature of your Act, that will be your introduction, because it defines what the Act is about. And guaranteed, one of your essays in question 7 could be an Act. So that nature will then be your introduction that you have, your first 2 facts that you need to write down.
Great stuff. As a matter of fact, Amanda, the examiner's report of 2015 indicates that learners do not write factual content when it comes to the introduction. So if they can use the points to indicated there under the nature as the introduction, they will get that marks for introduction.
Absolutely.
Okay, so remember, nature we ask what is the Act, not why. What is the Act? So what is BBBEE, Amanda? Why? What is it?
Okay, your acronym is Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. And the definition that you have there is accelerate the participation of black people in the economy. Accelerate means to make something faster. So we want to have more black people participate in the economy that is more black-owned, black-controlled and black-managed business.
And then also BBBEE is an integrated and coherent socio-economic process that was introduced to ensure that we've got transformation within the economy. Again, Amanda, I think it just emphasized what you said. Our economy was dominated by the whites, and so with BBBEE, we wanted inclusivity. We wanted a greater section of the black population to have a part of the economy or part of the wealth within the economy. And that's why they introduced BBBEE. The Consumer Protection Act. Amanda.
Okay, your definition over there is, I like this definition. It's protection from abuse or exploitation in the marketplace. And grade 12, if you grapple with this definition, we can break it down into something that is easier for you to understand. So you can say the consumers is protected from abuse. And from abuse in the marketplace, here we're referring to business that's abusing them. Or any form of exploitation. Exploitation is when it could be a misleading advertising, misleading prices, anything that is going to jeopardize your rights as a consumer.
Amanda, recently we had the case of Lewis stores where a gardener bought an item. I think the item was about 6,000, but the final price was about 18,000 Rand. And it was a gardener. He didn't earn a regular salary, and he could simply just not afford it. And he then took the matter up with Lewis. They eventually agreed to cancel that agreement and took back the appliance that he bought. So you can see the Act is really working, protecting the consumers from abuse. But within that, in calculating that amount that they owed Lewis stores, they had so many other add-ons. Insurance for this. It wasn't insurance, disability insurance, retrenchment insurance, 101 other things they included in that agreement just to push up the price of the eventual product.
And Lester, I believe this is an Act that every consumer, we're all consumers. Even our grade 12s are consumers. They go to the shop on a daily basis, and we need to know our rights. We need to know when we are exploited. We often get on TV, there's an advertisement that says a particular retailer is having a sale. And when you come to the shop, there's no products available.
Why don't you just name the retailer? Name and shame. Then also, Amanda, the Act was also introduced to ensure full participation of the consumers in the economy. If you look at the National Credit Act, it covers all aspects of credit management and application, and we're going to look at that in more detail. and it allows consumers to make informed decisions before buying on credit. So learners, that is basically the nature of the Act. What is the Act? Now, we spoke about the broad-based black economic empowerment and why it was introduced. If you just look at this graph, the pie chart, in 2014, the population of our country was estimated to be about 54 million. Now, 49.5 million were classified as blacks. Now, Amanda, just briefly, blacks includes which groups?
Your blacks will be your Indians, your coloureds, and your black people, or your African people.
Would that be the black group?
There we go.
And then 4.5 million were whites. That was now 2014. If we look at the number of shares owned by the blacks, that's the 50 million, and the number of shares owned by the whites, that's at 4.5 million. You can see the 4.5 million owed 66% of the shares listed on the JSE, whilst the 50 million blacks only owned 34%. So you can see there was an unequal distribution of wealth. And BBBEE, part of that objective is to ensure that there's a more, and I think I like the word that you used. No, you didn't use equitable. You used that other word, a more balanced distribution of wealth amongst all population groups in our country.
Yeah, therefore, I like to believe when I look at black economic empowerment, and the most simplest definition for me is always it's black owned, black controlled, and black managed business. For me, that is the objective. I mean, if you look at your first slide, and you can imagine what it must have been when this act was just introduced. The statistics even had to be much more skewed than that. We had only the white population buying shares. And still today, they are the part of the population that buys more shares than anybody else. So there had to be a move to encourage, the previously disadvantaged people to also to participate in the economy. Yeah. And the only way for them to do this was to have an act like this so that we could specifically redress this. And what I like about all these acts that came out, they run simultaneously, so we're redressing all these issues at the same time. We're looking at our skills development. We're looking at improving our black economic empowerment. We're looking at our employment equity. We're looking at all these things at the same time. So therefore, for many people says nothing has changed, but if you look back, you can see skills development has been taking place. You can see that there are more black people that is owning businesses, more black people that's in management positions.
Yes, Amanda, you are so true, so right, especially with the ownership of the shares. Remember, we had this BEE, Black Empowerment share schemes, and we had MTN selling the Zakhele shares. And now remember, they were selling it for 20 Rand a share.
There was also the one now recently of the multi-choice one. The
multi-choice, yes. Also Vodacom had Yebo. There were quite a few companies who sold shares. Just about MTN, remember they were selling those shares for 20 Rand and only blacks could buy those shares. I think it was in 2010 and they could buy it for 20 Rand. In last year, it went up from 20 Rand to 145 Rand. Now that's a massive increase. We look at the aims of these acts and then simply we ask the question, why were these acts passed or enacted? Right, I think we covered much of it of BBBEE. We said that to enable wealth to be spread more broadly across all population groups. And I think we had that pie chart indicating that was just one asset, shares. We need to look at home ownership. We need to look at farms. And you see, quite a lot of that is still in the hands of the whites. But BBBEE wants a more equitable spread of the wealth across all the population groups. And so it focuses primarily or exclusively on the blacks. The next one, Amanda.
Oh, well, let's do. We still talk about the 7 pillars of broad-based black economic empowerment. Now, that 7 pillars is what we use, or at least what the government will use to measure how businesses is performing, and that brings about your equitable spread of wealth. We will talk about the measurements and the pillars later on. And your broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act is an enabling framework. What do we want to enable? We want to enable the empowerment of black people within the economy.
Okay, so if you ask why was the Consumer Protection Act introduced? So what's the purpose or the aims of the Consumer Protection Act? Promotes and protects the economic interests of the consumer. I think we spoke about that already. It improves the access to information to make informed choices, and it promotes consumer education. I think it's only if you're educated that you can make informed decisions. Amanda, why was the National Credit Act introduced?
The aim is to improve consumer rights in terms of applications for credit. I mean, way before 1994, credit was granted too easy, and people landed up being in debt and being debted, and therefore there had to be a structure put into place. You need to have a job for you to apply for credit. You need to have a credit history. You need to have a history of paying, having accounts and paying your accounts. The second one there says to streamline credit transactions. And that word streamline, myself and Lester was talking about it earlier, and it just basically means we want to make an easy process. So whenever you apply for credit, every retailer, every business has certain things that they need to ask you. They need to ascertain your credit worthiness. So your credit worthiness is once again, do you have a job? Do you have a regular income coming in? Do you have other accounts? Are you able to pay for these accounts? So it just streamlines it by everybody asks you the same questions.
And then finally, Amanda, it promotes responsible granting of credit by credit providers.